Okay. Okay. So basically, my name is Shonda Richardson Young. I am a licensed realtor with Swell Real Estate, and I have my own transaction coordinating business, Young Professional Real Estate Services. I also help Swell with processing your commissions once they come in, making sure all your documents are there and ready in Suite Assist so that we can move that along to Barry so that he can move it along to Gemma. But as I started doing this processing, I realized that a lot of agents were struggling with Suite Assist. So I decided, I'm just going to try and help make it a little bit easier for you guys. And I'm letting people in at the same time. So and they're coming back to back. So forgive me. There we go. So basically, when you have a transaction, we're going to talk about both sides. We're going to talk about the listing side, the buyer side. When you have a transaction in Suite Assist, the first thing is all documents have to go in. So your listing, if you're the listing agent, it needs to go into Suite Assist. If you are the buyer side, it needs to go into Suite Assist. If you are the listing agent, once you get a contract, it needs to go into Suite Assist. Everything needs to be there. That way, if Swell should get audited, all your documents are compliant. So it's about being D4 compliant. That's how important this is. It's not just Swell being a little bit hard about having all your documents. It's making it easier to access. And if you need to go back to reference a transaction, your documents are there. So everybody knows how to log on to Suite Assist. Is that correct? Does everybody know? And I am going to share my screen here. Once I share my screen, I don't know how quickly I'll see people who are trying to get on because we have about 20 people on right now. So let's go ahead and share our screen. Okay, can everyone see that screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so when you start a transaction in Suite Assist, you basically are going to go to your transactions just here. It's going to make me log on. It was on there too long. Okay, and hit the green create transaction. Buyer, seller, referral. Those are the three basic ones that we deal with. So I'm going to do the seller side of this. You have to, once you decided what you're going to be, buyer, listing, whatever you're going to decide there, you have to choose your company. As everyone knows, we have two, Swell Realty and Swell Real Estate Company, realtor, non-realtor. So whichever one you decide, I am a realtor, so I'm going to use Swell Real Estate. Is it a short sale? It is not. Is it built prior to 1978? I'm going to say yes. Does it have a POA? I'm going to say yes. Lead generation or lead commission, you can skip that and you're going to put the property address in. So let's see. Let's do College Place. I don't know this address, but we're going to pick it out here. And then you should have your client. You can create your client here. So we're going to call this, our client's going to be Mandy. I'm going to mix some names up here, okay? Work with me. Okay, so we're just gonna, once you have your client in there, and if you need to add another client, you can create as many clients as you have in your transaction. So everybody's comfortable there. You can take yourself off mute. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to kind of jump in because I can't see your hand when I'm sharing my screen. So we're on our details tab. Everything with a red asterisk must be completed. In order to submit it for closing or move on to the next step, you have to have everything completed. So if it doesn't have the asterisk. You don't have to drop that information in that field, but if it's there, you must do that, and it will not allow you to submit for closing if you do not do that.
Rhonda,
Yes.
I had a cash deal that I put through and it wouldn't let me put NA in the appraisal date. It kept putting it
It needs an
like,
actual date. You would have to put a date.
okay,
Yeah. And then just to piggyback on what Shonda's saying, so anytime on those detail tabs, that is for if you want to submit it for review or closing. So if you upload a listing and you want to upload that, or you want to submit that listing for review, those detail tabs have to be filled out. It doesn't matter necessarily. You can always come back and change it later once you have more, firm information or confirmed information, let's say like the earnest money amount, stuff like that. You won't have it when you first put a listing up, but you will have it later in the transaction. So you can always come back and update that. But in order for you to submit it for review, it has to have something in all of those asterisks.
An appraisal date is not a required field, Jim. So you don't have to put that in. If you're doing that for your own checklist or you want to keep up with that information, it does have to have an actual date, but it's not a required field. Does that answer your question, sir? So we're going to, once all of that is completed, another very important field, the next tab over, contacts. I notice a lot of agents, they get to the contact field and they're not putting in the correct information, or they're not completing this. It will not allow you to submit for closing. So if you know who the lender is, you're going to put your lender, for instance, let's see, let's do Pat Miller's already in there with Southern Trust, so I'm just going to select and it'll automatically fill. If you don't have a lender, you can always put, if you do N/A, does everybody see how it comes up with these already pre-filled options here? If you select one of those, or if it's cash, you can just type cash and it'll also give you a pre-selected option. As far as your attorney and settlement company, that also must be filled out in order to submit for closing. So let's do Lancaster. Is that her? Melissa with Liberty. She's already pre-filled, and just select partner. If you don't know who the attorney, I can't imagine on either side, but if it's your closing attorney, not necessarily the other side's closing attorney, but you can also hit NA and it will come up with the same type of fill and you can put that there. Does anybody have any questions there? But those all have to be done in order to submit for closing. So we're now here at the famous document tab. One thing I want to make clear is there are a lot of things that say optional here. So for instance, the PICRA says optional. It's optional if it's not required for your transaction. But if you have a PICRA, if you have a PICA, you should have a PICRA. So just because it says it's optional, if it pertains to your transaction, it needs to go there. Not all transactions, of course, have inspections. So that's why it's an optional field. But if it pertains to your transaction, you want to have it there. So sometimes it'll let you submit for closing because that says optional, but I may send you a text message or call you and say, hey, can you upload your PICRA because I don't see it there? And I get client agents who say, hey, it's an optional field. It's not optional when it pertains to your transaction. I hope that is clear. So when it's not optional, when it doesn't say optional, each and every field must be must have a document in it, have something there in order to allow you to submit for closing. So on the listing side, you have your standard listing agreement, your SAER, your data input, your Swell additional disclosure form. Does everybody know what the Swell additional disclosure form actually is and how it's not that last page of your buyer broker form? Does everybody know what that is and where they can find that? If you don't, please speak up or type in the field, and Wendy or myself will help you find that. I see some chats here. Let's see what we have. Yes, yes. Okay.
And then I did just recently add a bunch of documents to each market area. So under the office docs, you should be able to find a lot of those forms there now. If you can't find them or don't see them, please let us know.
Okay. As you guys know, there used to be the standard purchase agreement and the ratified purchase agreement. That has now gone away. It's just your standard purchase agreement. So you only need to upload the completely ratified purchase agreement into that field. If you have one other thing I noticed when agents are uploading, if you're on the listing side the way we are now, you upload your listing documents. So you'll upload your DPOR, your ACUs, your lead, or whatever other disclosure you need to upload. When you get the contract and the other party has signed, go back and drop those documents signed by both sides in the same block. So you can have your listing one and the one that's completed by both sides. Does that make sense? And you will need that for closing. So it will allow you to submit it for closing with just the listing side there because there's a document. Sweet Assist is not that smart. It doesn't realize, oh, it doesn't have both sides signed. So it'll allow you to submit it for closing. And then I call you when your commission comes in and say, hey, I need both sides uploaded. So you just drop it right into the same field. Any additional documents that you have, amendments, addendums, anything that's pertaining to your file, you can just drop in any additional document tab here. So any seller possession agreement, anything you feel is important, you can drop into that spot there. Also, when you do your condo or your POA request, you want the request and the acknowledgement that the request was received. You can drop it in the same slot or you can drop it under additional documents because all those documents pertain to a file that has a POA. So I would say last but not least, when you upload your ALTA, make sure it is your fully executed ALTA, not the preliminary CD, not the master where it's not signed. You want your fully executed ALTA. You can get that, of course, from your closing agent. We don't always get them as quickly as you get them. If they come in with a check, I may not see them at all. I can't process without it. So you want to make sure that is there. And your closing sheet. We have new closing sheets. I know everybody's been using the older closing sheets. Wendy has created a new closing sheet, and it has additional information on that closing sheet. So if you're being paid as an LLC, if you're being paid as an S Corp, if there's a referral, if you have a transaction coordinator that you're paying, that sort of thing, all that needs to be documented because that's the way Gemma knows how to process. If you contributed towards closing costs, all those things. So if anything's coming out of your commission, you want to make note on your closing sheet so that we're not trying to figure out what's happening. If you paid for the home warranty, that sort of thing, that needs to be noted there so we know why the commission says $7,600, but only $7,000 came in, and now we're trying to figure out what happened to the other part of the money. So if you just let us know, that kind of that does help. One thing I also want to touch on is this compensation agreement. This has been the vein of, I think, every agent's existence recently. This is also part of the the standard purchase agreement. And it's also part of your SAER. So if you are having trouble getting this document from the other side, or you're just not finding it's easy to get that, Wendy, you can just confirm. We will accept your transaction, because I send a lot of text messages, make a lot of phone calls going, where's your compensation agreement? Some agents say the other agent won't give it to me. They say their brokerage doesn't require it. We will no longer require the compensation agreement. If you have it, put it there, but it's not, I will not hound you for that document. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? I'm going to have a question and answer session at the end. It's not even taking us an hour, but I want to hear, this to me is like second nature. So I want to make sure I answer as many questions as I can when it comes to Sweet Assist. If you are dual agency, please, 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 you have to have that. Your buyer broker agreements, please, those are important. Those are documents that we can't process your commission without. Another item I'd like to stress is your EMD. When you get on the listing side, the EMD is not as important. When you are the buyer's agent, the EMD, it needs to be not a picture of the check or the money order or whatever. It needs to be verification of receipt by whoever's holding that EMD. So if Liberty is holding your EMD, you want verification of receipt, not just the check that the client dropped off, or however they did. You want the confirmation from Liberty that it's been received. And as we all know, the contract says you have 2 days to do that. Just please, if you're the buyer's agent, kind of stay on top. I'm running into a lot of that because I have to check that. That's something that I have to check. So if the EMD is not turned in timely, then Barry will probably be calling you and talking about DPOR as far as that's concerned. Okay. So lastly, what I do when I get your commission in and all your documents are wonderful and I don't have to call you, I actually close out your transaction by doing the CDA form. You do not have, this is not a tab that agents have to be concerned about, because this is what the office processes. Myself, Barry, Heather, Wendy can process that side. This basically just breaks down how your commission was broken up. If you gave to Swell Gets Back, if you played your transaction coordinator, all those little things that we ask you for on the closing sheet, this is where you can find that information. So once you finish a transaction and you uploaded all your documents, your closing sheet, your executed ALTA, you can submit for closing. Barry sends me notification that the wire or the check has been received by Swell. If I see that it's submitted for closing, then I know you're ready to go. I know your detail sheet side, your detail tab is filled out because it won't let you submit if there's anything missing. I know your contacts are there because it will not let you submit if those items aren't there. Documents, I do go through each and every document because, again, there's some items that are noted as optional, but if they pertain to your transaction, you need to make sure that they're there. So I will go through all your documents, kind of scan through to make sure everything's kind of signed, that we have both sides, the listing side if you're the listing agent, and the buyer side if you have your buyer broker, that Swell additional disclosure form, and I verify the EMD. I also verify that your subscription with Sweet Assist is active and current. So if there are any issues there, then you want to speak with Heather in the office, and Wendy can also help you with that. And basically, that is the very, very basic ground of Sweet Assist. One thing I do want to touch on, we'll go back to documents. I want to circle back to documents here. So sometimes you're lucky and all your documents are individually there, and you can just click on them, find it wherever you have it uploaded, and drop it in. When that is not the case, you have your bulk upload. You don't necessarily have to be on a tab to do the bulk upload. So what you want to do, if you have everything in the packet together, of your purchase agreement, your PICA, and your signed documents from the other side come back in one packet, you just want to go to your upload bulk file here. Wherever you have that saved, let me see if I can find something to upload there. It's going to upload. It takes a second. But when you do that, once you go to assign documents, it's going to give you a list on your left side of the screen. It's going to give you a list, and then you're going to see what you just uploaded. When you go to the bucket, and this one's going to take a lot, so it may have a lot of documents uploaded there. But what you want to do is click on each page that belongs to that bucket. So if it's the D4, it's just one page. So if you have 16, let's see what's in here. Okay. So we're just gonna, this wasn't a good file. Okay, so let's just pretend that this is the D4. So everybody can see on the left side that you have the list of documents that are required, correct? And if this is the D4, you're just going to basically go down to your D4 bucket, and you're going to click that one page. Now that one page is assigned to that one bucket. If your next document in there is your Swell additional disclosure form, and you see how it grayed out, so now that's no longer available because it is now assigned to the D4 bucket. So let's say the Swell additional disclosure form is also in that packet that you uploaded. So you're just going to click on that one form, and that one form now is part of that bucket. So on and so forth. Does that make sense to everyone? And if you go click back on your documents, you can see those items are there. So that is the basic gist of how to use Suite Assist. So I'm just going to open up the floor for some questions. So you can take yourself off of mute. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for the moment so I can see your faces. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Jim, I see you. Go, just jump right in. Yes.
Okay, so I put in all the forms like right after the ratification, and then I hit the yellow submit for review, and then like a week later, like I figured no news was good news. Then a week later, I had the PICRA and the addendum, and I went to add those, and it still said it was waiting for review. So when I went to the I think it was that first page, the details, there was a thing at the bottom, like a toggle that said, I think it said enable for a review or something like that, and it said off. So I clicked it to on. Is that something like, would that prevent us? Is that like a fail safe to prevent reviewing too soon? I didn't notice that the first time around.
Okay, so and Wendy, you can jump in as far as that actual toggle. So when you submit something for review, every day what I do is everybody who is paid commission, that's the first thing that I work on so that people can get paid timely. When something gets submitted for review, I may not go on and verify every document. There's 250 or 260 of you guys, so it's very difficult to review each of your transactions before we get to closing. If you're having a problem please call me to say, hey, I'm missing this document, or I'm having trouble, or whatever the case may be. I may even look at them just to see that I see you're dropping in your documents, but I don't necessarily hit verify, 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 because at that time I'd have to scroll through each one. When you get your commission in, that is when I scroll through each document to make sure that it's the correct document. Most of the agents with Swell are seasoned agents. That's kind of varies because everybody keeps 100% of their commission. You don't necessarily have all of the bells and whistles of an admin holding your hand through the transaction, but I am available to help you. So you may submit it for review and not see that I verified, but I will take a peek at it and just make sure I see things going. When your commission comes in, I will definitely, if there's any issue, I will reach out to you. But if you know ahead of time you're having an issue, do not hesitate to call me. And everybody should have, I have both the office phone and my personal cell phone. It's much easier to reach me on my personal cell phone. So I'm going to give that number out. Most agents that I talk to have it, but it is 757-912-7963. So I am like I said, I am a licensed transaction coordinator, and I own my own transaction coordinating business. You don't see my two assistants over there in the background who help get me through, but I will make sure that if you're having a problem with the transaction, I will help you. And of course, my services are always available. You can find my fee sheet also in the Swell Google Drive. Does anyone else, did that answer your question, Jim?
So does it matter with that toggle switch or not?
I do not think so. Wendy, are you familiar with that toggle switch he's speaking about?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what exactly on the details portion. Where do you
Yeah, I
see
think
the
it was at
toggle?
the bottom of the page. I think it said
I'm going to
something
share
like
my screen again.
allow for review or enable review.
At the very bottom?
I believe so.
It usually I know that at the very bottom, it usually says set for review or set for closing. Like there's something like that. Like, see, okay, yeah. Details, contact, submit for closing, submit for review. This is the same thing as if you were in the docs portion and you were to submit it for review. So same.
Jim, is that what you're seeing? What you're seeing there on the screen? Details
No,
and contact.
it was like a little blurb at the bottom, and then
Okay,
you could
that
click
might
on
have been when we were editing doing some work on the transaction workflow. So that could have been why you saw that. We actually stopped. We discontinued the ability for agents to submit it as closed. You could submit it for closing, but you can no longer submit it as closed because we found that a lot of agents were pushing it to thinking that they were submitting it for closing, but they were actually closing out that complete transaction. And so the admin could not get into that transaction to process your commissions and upload the commission information. We actually had to go and set it back to pending and then enter that information in order to properly close out the transaction. I wanted to mention, we do now, since we do have a tab for Swell Realty, the non-realtor transactions on here, it's going to be, so everyone with Swell Real Estate, you don't have to listen to this. The one with Swell Realty is going to be a little bit different because when it was created before, it wasn't created necessarily like via an agent. Now that I am kind of the lead person to create these workflows and work on Suite Assist for everyone, I have created the workflow for Swell Realty. And I have found that it's better if we do a phase flow, which that means, so in the details, if you'll scroll up, Shonda, when you, let's say for instance, you have a listing, the first part is going to be, keep going all the way up. Okay, do you see where the transaction phase says active? If you have a listing and you're going to see all the documents, it needs to be an active right now, right? So you have a listing, it goes live, you go to the document section, you upload all the documents for that listing. Now, for Swell Realty agents, you will only see the documents that are required for your listing to update. Once you get a contract on your listing, you will then change the transaction phase to pending. Once you change that phase to pending, you will then be, if you go back to the documents tab, you will then see the tabs for you to upload that transaction or your ratified contract and all the forms that go with that contract. And then you can then, after it's all said and done, you have your PICRA. There's going to be some questions that will pop up, and some of you may have seen it by now. So for instance, when it asks you in the very beginning for Swell real estate people, everybody gets asked the questions like, is it built prior to 1978 or 1979, whatever it is? Is it a short sale? Whenever they ask things like that, that actually prompts the system to tell that document section that it needs that folder there for you to upload a lead-based paint disclosure, for example. So with the phase flow now, whenever it asks you questions, you're going to see on the Swell Realty side, you're going to see it's going to ask you, is this contingent upon a home inspection? Is the buyer asking for repairs? That's going to prompt the system to tell it, okay, if you're asking for repairs, it's going to need a PICRA. Is it contingent on a home inspection? It's going to need a PICA. So you'll see that as you go through it. If anyone has any questions or you run into a hiccup or something that you can't get past, just call me. I know that I did get a call from a couple of people already, and it seems like the way it's going right now is pretty smooth. So again, we may run into a couple more hiccups, but as of right now, it seems like everything is there and working properly.
Okay, thank you,
Shonda,
Wendy.
sorry. The switch that I was talking about looks just like up at the top next to active. It was something like that where it said off and then you could click it to on. But like I say, it was at the bottom and it kind of looked like that.
Yeah, it may
Okay,
have
so
been something then that was there whenever we were doing some editing to the system. Just to let you guys that little toggle button right there, always keep it off. It's going to be a little bit easier of a view for your documents, because when you turn it on, it kind of gives it a little bit weirder of a view, and a lot of people end up getting a little bit confused when they toggle that. Also, there is in the profile section a spot where it does ask you if it's okay to allow the admin to act as you, and you always want to leave that on, because that's the only way we can go in there and help you with any forms and reviewing stuff for you as you. So let's say somebody's having an issue uploading a form, or maybe it's a phone number that's not going in properly, it's not accepting it. We would then go in as you and then correct that for you, and then usually it updates on our side right away, and then you're good to go. So leave that alone, let it be available for admin.
Wendy?
Yep.
I've created a transaction type shows listing.
I can't hear you.
yeah.
I created a transaction and it said transaction type listing.
Right. I saw you typed in the field, so I'm gonna read what he typed. So maybe that's what he's. Can I change the transaction type? Mine shows as listing RIC, but it is Virginia Beach. So are you saying that you are a Hampton Roads agent, but you're, or did you click on RIC when you first uploaded, Ray?
Either I clicked because I couldn't find anything that sounded closer, or I screwed up. I don't really know, but it's a Hampton Roads contract.
Yes,
Okay.
you can definitely change the transaction to the correct transaction. So you can change it from Richmond to, it depends on who you were with. If you're with Swell Real Estate, you want to make sure you click on that one. Swell Realty, you want to make sure you click on that one. Just know that once you do change it, you're going to see the fields on the documents tab. It's going to be different. So if you had anything uploaded, you may have to re-upload that to those tabs.
Yeah, I can't, when I click on it, it doesn't give me a scroll down, a drop down box.
Okay. Give me 1 second and I'll take a look for you.
All right, I'm gonna look, and I see there are some questions here. Jason, do we have to submit docs for review, or can we just hit submit for closing once everything is completed? We prefer that, yes. Once you've uploaded all your docs and your detail tabs, your contact tab, everything is done, just hit submit for closing. So once I get notification that your commission has come in, I know that you're ready to go. When you just have the documents there, it's not submitted for closing, then I have to check your details. I have to check your your contacts. I have to check to make sure that's all done. I don't know why you haven't submitted it for closing. So I'm looking at all of that to try and find out why you haven't submitted for closing. Just a second, Fred. I see your hand. Let me just make sure I get
And hey, just also, Shonda, to everyone, make sure that you are with the correct office. A lot of people I've been seeing that they're assigned to the office HRVA Southside. It needs to be either Swell Realty or Swell Real Estate Co. or ECNC or WVBA or RIC. So you need to be in one of those, not HRVA Southside.
And Wendy, will that be going away? Will that no longer be an option eventually?
I'm hoping so. That's something that we're still working with Clark on.
Okay, gotcha. And to NC agents, are you still required to upload the EMD and DD verification of receipt
Yes.
regardless? I think, yeah, I was going to say they talked about that yesterday, and yes, that is true. Let me see. Ray, I see the form show up in Ring, so figure the Google Docs no longer being. They are in both. Ray, they are in both places. They are in Ring, they are in Suite Assist, and they are also on the Google Docs. So you can find all your documents in both places. Fred, I saw that your hand was up. Go ahead and jump right in with your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Oh.
you.
Hi, how are you, Shonda?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I just quick question or statement, I guess. I do all the admin for my team. So is there any way you can text or email me when something is missing? Because yesterday, exactly what you said, like I had the listing DPOR and AQs in, and I hadn't put in the DPOR and AQs signed by both parties on the ratified contract of the listing.
Yes, I can definitely do that. Can you do me a favor? Did you take down my number, 757-912-7963? Text me
I'm
your
sorry, it's 757.
912
Uh-huh.
7963 and just text me and I'll make sure. I think your team normally puts that on their closing sheet. So that's how
It's all me.
know
I do all the closing sheets and all that stuff.
Okay,
So like
perfect. So
yesterday,
that way I know.
she was in another state, getting on an airplane, and she hit me real quick. But if you guys could just reach out to me, because I do all the paperwork for all of those guys.
That sounds good. I definitely will make that note and do that for you. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
And no problem at all. Marilyn, I don't know anything about Suite Assist. We can chat after.
Hey, Ray, it looks like you are going to have to cancel that transaction and then recreate it.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's not going to let me change it.
So I think I've gone through all the questions in the chat. Does anyone else have any questions? I'm hoping that this is helpful. Next month when we do this training, basically it's going to be question and answer type situation. So if you come across something that is just driving you bananas, please bring it forth because other people could be having the same problem. And Suite Assist is 100 times better than emailing all those documents the way they were doing it prior to. That's just not a good way to keep track of things. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to jump in and ask? I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment.
Yeah, I got another one.
Yes, no problem. Ask away.
Just to be clear, like when you said that you may not actually review all the documents until it's submitted for closing or you get the closing check. That's not to say that there's no urgency in submitting the documents in the first place, right? Like we're still
Absolutely
required to
not.
do it right
Yes.
soon after ratification, not wait 2 or 3
Absolutely.
weeks.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is absolutely correct. You want to get your documents in as quickly as possible because when you wait to closing, then you're scrambling. I know this. I'm a transaction coordinator. I'm a realtor. So I get what you guys are going through. So I'm guilty of it myself when I have my own transactions. I treat my clients better than I treat myself. I'm realizing, oh my God, this is closed and I have not submitted my documents to Suite Assist. Now I got to go back to transaction desk, emails, folders on my computer to try and get it all in Sweet Assist because I want to be paid, and it's just frustrating. So once you get everything, just upload it, and then if you're having an issue, then you can call or text me or get in touch with myself or Wendy ahead of time, and it's not the pressure of, oh my God, I'm waiting for my payment and I have to wait another 2 days because my stuff is not in Sweet Assist. That's when it gets frustrating for agents. So definitely, if there's any problem ahead of time, get it in early so we can talk about it if you think you're having some trouble.
Yeah, and if you're an agent who just would like it to be reviewed to make sure that, you know, you're good to go, everything, you know, is cleaned up and everything. If you want it reviewed, you're more than welcome to reach out to us and let us know that it's there and, you know, you would like it reviewed. You can also share the transaction if you guys are working with another agent. I know I did a couple deals with some agents here, and we were able to share the transaction so we could go back and forth and look, you know, at who uploaded what and what was uploaded. So you have the ability to do that as well. So don't hesitate. Like if you just would like it to be reviewed because you want to make sure that you're good to go until you're, you know, you're pretty familiar with the system. And let's say you've done a good amount of transactions where, you know, you're good to go. You know, again, Swell is one of those companies that most agents here are veteran, but whoever is not, you're more than welcome to contact us if you need any help with that. And I will also say in the contacts tab right now, because we are working with the creators of Sweet Assist to clean some things up for us, we have actually taken off for some of the market areas the mandatory tab for the lender and the attorney, because we were having some issues when people were trying to put the company name in. It wasn't going through. So as of right now, until they get that figured out, it's not mandatory, but it is mandatory. So we want you to put that in the system. You need to fill out the settlement company and the lender if you have a lender. So be sure that that's in there. Just because right now it's going to let you submit it for review or closing, because if you don't have it in there, Shonda will check and you will be delayed in your commission. So please make sure that you fill that out.
And just note, also, I do not get a notification. It's not like I get a little, you know, hands up, hey, this needs to be reviewed when you submit for review. I do take the time to look at who submitted things for review, and I'll click on it and say, okay, I see he's got some documents, but I'm definitely not digging into it to make sure that hey, you missed a signature on this page or that sort of thing. So if, again, like Wendy mentioned, if you need someone to take a look at it, just text me and let me know, and I will take a look at it. And if you ask me to take a look at it and I don't call you back and say it's a mess, then you're pretty good to go. Or you're missing something.
Just a housekeeping note. When we did the first training, we set up dummy transactions just to get used to putting stuff in.
Right. They're still there.
Yeah, I know. I know I can't get rid of it, but and you guys are out that?
That is a Wendy question. I still have my 123 Main Street in there from the initial training as well, Bruce. So I will, Wendy maybe can look at that. We can see if something can happen with that.
Yeah.
And that is something to note too. You cannot, once you upload something, it can't be deleted as far as I understand. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But just so if you mistakenly add something into one of the fields, so you're supposed to upload the ACUs, but you uploaded something else, just add to that block the correct document, because what I do is I scroll through everything that's there, because I know that happens. So if it's there and you've got 5 other things ahead of it because you just had a bad day and you uploaded everything into that one, I'm still going to be looking for that. So I get it. I've done it myself with some of my own transactions. So just make sure
you can delete it from the folder, but you have to go to that the bulk upload document and find where you have to find where you uploaded it to. So if you uploaded it there, you have to go to the bulk upload, find where the bulk of forms that you uploaded, and then click on it. You hit assign pages again. Then you're gonna go to the left and figure out where you uploaded it that was wrong. You're gonna click on that, and then if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you're gonna see it's gonna give you the ability to hover over those pages and exit out those pages. The ones that you
And if
don't
they
want in
don't,
this folder.
and they don't leave the bucket, they're just
Right.
no longer
They're just no
visual.
longer in the folder. Yep.
So if it's too much for all of that, just I'll find it. If
Just
it's
leave
where
it.
it needs to be, I will I will find it there. Also, a lot of you still complete. I don't know if you just do it because it's habit. The information form, you don't have, if that's taking you a lot of extra time or you're feeling like that's repetitive because you're putting it on the detail screen, that is an optional document, so you don't have to do that. Like the listing requirement sheet or the on the buyer side, the contract information sheet, a lot of that information is on the detail tab, so you don't have to do that repetitive work. It's an optional form if you just like to do it because you're detailed that way and you just need to do it, that's fine, no problem. But if it saves you a little bit of time, just know that those are optional forms.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is an email verification from the title company on a deposit being received enough?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Just
then, oh, go
do a
ahead.
PDF, do a PDF, print, like you're gonna print it and save a PDF and then upload it to that folder, because those folders need some sort of PDF.
Right. Okay, and also, just to clarify, and I need to get into Sweet Assist. I'm not able to get into it. I hope you can send me another link, Wendy. But I have a contract and I just want to be clear. I submit it for closing once it's closed. I don't submit it prior unless I need it reviewed.
That's correct. So once it's closed, once you have your ALTA, your executed ALTA
Right.
signed by all parties, and you also have your closing sheet uploaded, you can submit for closing. When you get ready to submit for closing, a lot of agents get frustrated because it won't submit for closing. There's a little red box that pops up and it'll tell you what's missing. It'll say required document needed.
Okay.
So you need to go back to your documents field and see what's missing from that required document. And let's say it's a required document, but for some reason you didn't do it and you need to request an exemption. So there's a little, let me share my screen again, and everybody's probably familiar with this button, but let's go there so we can. Under documents. Okay, so let's say you had a pickup, but for some reason in the transaction you guys decided that we were going to go with no contingencies, but your PICRA is required. Where it has this little request for exemption, you're going to click on it, you're going to type why. You're going to request your exemption. We decided to go with no contingencies. So Wendy is also creating a exemption document that we will use that you can also upload in those spots where you need to request an exemption, but it's a required document. I hope that makes sense and it's not confusing.
So we've waived the contingency. There's no home inspection contingency on this. So
Okay.
would I need to have the exemption on here?
No,
Okay.
no, because if you don't have any contingencies, the PICA is also an optional document because there are plenty of contracts that you don't do inspections on. So if it's optional, it doesn't pertain to your transaction. No, you don't need to do an exemption. It's just not there. It's when it does pertain to your transaction, but it shows it's optional, you still need to make sure you upload it. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely.
Are you with Swell Real Estate Co. or are you in Richmond?
Richmond.
Okay, you're in Richmond. Okay, I have to correct that. And then you actually already are on Sweet Assist, so you will just have to go to www.sweetassist.com, use the email that
Okay,
you're set up with, and then whatever password you did to create your account.
okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Well, it is 12:21 and I am still available for any additional questions. If you guys feel like you have additional questions, please feel free to jump right in and go with it. I hope that this was helpful. I do want to know, I do want that feedback. Do you feel like this was helpful to you and answered your question? Bruce, take yourself off of mute and tell me, do you?
Yeah, well, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. I just, last transaction I did the bulk uploads first. And I just found that confusing. Because I had the buyer side and the seller side to put in. And so I had like 40 some documents. And on the screen, they look like they're about like this. And, I'd need a magnifying glass to figure out which goes where. To me, it takes longer to do it one by one. But I think, for me, makes more sense. I don't know.
I have that same problem with seeing. I actually do have a magnifying glass on my desk, but I just try to make it. I also have a touch screen, so I do make it bigger so that I can see what I'm clicking, on. If you do, when you do the upload bulk that way, what I do, Bruce, and maybe it's helpful, I just write down what's in that bulk. So if it's the PA, the PICA, the PICRA, the disclosures, now I know what's in that bulk. So now I know what I'm assigning to the other side. So I know there's 17 pages in the purchase agreement. So the first 17 pages belong in that bucket. So that's the way I kind of, to help myself remember what I actually uploaded.
Okay.
So, but of course, I remember walking through that one with you, and we will walk through it again if need be until we get it down packed. Okay.
Roger that.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. Well, if no one else has any questions, we will see you again next month. With hopefully you'll have questions. Write them down. If they're not questions that are urgent, write them down and bring them to the table so that we can all talk about it. I want to say thank you so very much for attending the training. It will make my job easier and I can process your commissions a lot faster. That is the reason why I wanted to do this, because I want you guys to get paid timely. I don't want to hold on to any commissions because I want my commission same day. So if there's any questions ahead of time, please feel free just to give me a call so we can get it worked out. So if no one has any questions, I am going to end our Zoom call, and I'll see you guys next month. And I'll see you as your commissions come in.
Peace.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye. Thank you
Bye.
so much. Okay.